Why do I feel like I linger between the words to say the words to remember.
Alright guys, today's video is going to be pretty simple. It's just going to be going over, Sajin Komamura in the final arc of Bleach, the 1,000-Year Blood War, where he finally discards his persona and shows us the man underneath. So, not a whole lot changes with Sajin in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. I mean, he gets stronger. We know that everybody pretty much got stronger after the Aizen arc. Pretty much everybody in the Soul Society trained to, take on an Aizen-level threat. But, I mean, he's comparable to everybody else. He's pretty impressive. But that's not really his, that's not the big deal behind him in this arc. He's stronger now. He's a human now. Yeah, we get this whole backstory about him being, part of a werewolf clan, and their whole deal is, revenge is bad. Yeah. Justice is fine, and, we know that Sajin isn't really, a person that, strives for justice like Kaname, but, revenge, feeling, negative feelings of revenge, if I remember correctly, that's why when the human dies, that's why they go to the Soul Society as, part of the werewolf clan. It's you're being shamed for your, lust for revenge. So Sajin basically, he that's why he has such a complex about how he looks different and the significance of why he looks different. And that's why he holds Yamamoto, Old Man Yama, in such high regard, is because Yama was one of the few people who was basically able to look past his beast form and say, you know what, I see potential in you, and I'm gonna basically adopt you, and make you into somebody you can be proud of. That's exactly what he does. He makes him into a captain, or I should say Sajin makes himself into a captain. Yama just grants him the title. It was a very cool backstory, but that's not really his main deal in the 1,000-Year Blood War. He gets a little faster, he gets a little stronger. Not a huge boost or anything. I think he's probably about as strong in his base form as he was with his Bankai pre-Aizen. And then, of course, with his Bankai, he gets, much stronger than even that. He's even able to, fight off and do very well against Bambi Basterbine. I actually believe if he doesn't kill her, he makes her considerably weaker, because after Sajin basically beats her ass, she gets turned into a zombie by Gigi. So, she would have to be considerably weak, to be caught with something like that. But, she fights Sajin, she loses, and it's not because, he's so overwhelmingly powerful. He doesn't become this, Kenpachi, physical strength god tier level fighter. He actually has a better trick up his sleeve. Basically, what has happened from him undergoing this humanization process is what they call it, where basically he puts his heart on the line, both physically and metaphorically. He goes to his great ancestor, and he's I'm literally putting my heart on the line. He reaches into his chest and rips out his own heart, and basically, it's supposed to be like a literal metaphor, where he's as I'm saying, I've already said it a few times, he's both literally and metaphorically putting his heart on the line. So it's basically it's a test to see if his heart still holds hatred and revenge. And well, what happens is, if you still harbor this hatred and lust for revenge, and you're still a vengeful person, then the consequence is basically you are turned into what is essentially a normal dog forever. I do believe that you retain sentience. I believe Sajin retains sentience, but other than that, he's a normal dog. So, he can't really uphold the position of captain anymore. But if you don't harbor those feelings anymore, then you... Well, this is basically what Sajin gets for the time that he's in the humanization process, is that you become, half beast, half man like you were before, but you're much closer to a man. Like, you've probably seen a few pictures I've been putting up as of, like, throughout the video so far. And yeah, he's got like a normal human face. He's considerably less hairy. Like, my boy has discarded his persona. He is grown up. He's gonna get a job. His parents are finally gonna be proud of him. Man, it's gonna be great. But of course, all that is dashed later on. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Basically, he's fighting Bambietti, and she has the ability to turn anything her Ryatsu touches into a bomb. But Sajin just does not care. You know, she blows him up, so to speak, but due to the humanization process, he actually gains an immunity to physical damage. An outright immunity. So, every time she blows him up, doesn't do anything. Eat your heart out, Killer Queen. Yeah, it's a very nifty. I suppose you could say it's a very nifty hacks. You know, Sajin has never really been a hacks kind of guy. He's kind of been along the same line as Kenpachi, where like he lets his physical strength do the talking. I discussed this further in my Sajin Komamura overview, but essentially he's like a powerhouse with a bankai that lets him flex his powerhouseness even more. You know, like Kenpachi is all about like raw brute strength, whereas Sajin, what he lacks in like the strength department, he makes up with the like size advantage and the overall like reach advantage, attack advantage. Like he has specific advantages that Kenpachi does not. Now, if you're asking me who hits harder, it's Kenpachi. Like, obviously, the man is like, his sword is plot armor. Like, it's no contest. But being almost as strong, or like a very similar level of strength to Kenpachi, plus being invulnerable to physical damage, that's a pretty good deal. I'd say Sajin got a nice buff from discarding his persona. So now that he no longer looks like the love child of a furry and the Cats movie, he's got a new bankai. He gains a new bankai through the humanization technique, where basically it represents, like, if you've noticed before with his bankai, it's covered like pretty much everywhere. Its face is covered by that red cloth. It's like covered in armor. You can practically not see a single piece of the actual man that the bankai creates, the large man. Well, in his humanization technique, to represent the fact that he's discarding, all of his, like, both he's, like, metaphorically discarding, there's a lot of, like, metaphor and, like, literal representation in this dichotomy here between him and his bankai, but to represent the fact that, like, he's discarding his inhibitions and his like self-reservations about his appearance and stuff, his complex, and to literally represent the fact that like he is physically changing to look like a normal person. So he no longer has like a complex about how he looks, and he literally no longer looks like how he did. He's undergone a metamorphosis. His bankai loses all of its armor, it's shed down to its bare skin, and it becomes Kokujo Tengen Myoho, Dungai Joe. And, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really gain any new special powers, but it does share the invulnerability that Sajin has. So, we're sticking to that whole thing where it's like, it's tit for tat. Sajin has powers. He has this immense strength and stuff. So does his bankai. His bankai takes damage, so does he. And the reverse is true as well, I believe. If he takes damage, so does his bankai. Well, now, since he's invulnerable to physical damage, so is this, like, colossal titan-sized, like, man with this massive blade. He's just going around, like, cutting people down. I think it's very obvious to see why Bambi kind of lost this one. Like, in the end, basically what happens is Sajin defeats Bambi, and he's like, now I'm going after Yuhas for what he did to Yamamoto, and I'm going to get revenge. And because his heart is filled with these feelings of revenge, he's doomed to repeat the mistakes of his predecessors in the Wolf Clan, and, he undergoes the metamorphosis from almost human to a normal dog. He has lost all of his powers, he lost everything that made him a Soul Reaper, and he has to step down as captain. So that really sucks. I think it would have been interesting to see what he could have done against Juhas. Now, granted, I don't necessarily think he was strong enough to do anything significant to Juhas, and it's quite possible that Juhas's Almighty would have been able to negate Sajin's invulnerability, the same way he negated Aizen's regeneration ability. The fact that he regenerated from like every single execution attempt, they couldn't kill him no matter what. They even used like the Phoenix Murder Blade that they were going to use on Rukia, just gonna sweep under the rug that one instance where Soul Society Shikai Ichigo was enough to split that blade in half. I mean, they thought that it could kill Aizen, and it failed to kill Aizen like a bunch of times. That's why they just got sick of trying to kill him, and they stuck him in the Muken, which is basically this like vast and like limitless empty black void of a prison. And they stuck him down there, they sealed him up, and they let sleeping dogs lie. Yeah, so like nothing was able to permanently put him down, but like even Juhas was, from my understanding, able to bypass his regeneration or negate it in some way, because that whole setup where they kind of like hit Juhas with that how to catch a predator, and got Chris Hansen as Aizen, kind of caught him with the setup, and he's like, oh, you think you're fighting Ichigo? That's interesting. And Juhas is like, no, no, no. Yeah, it was brilliant. But I digress. It would seem that he was able to actually do damage to Aizen that Aizen wasn't really able to compensate from. With his regeneration that basically allowed him to survive the what's it called, the Mugetsu from Ichigo when they had their big battle. It was like the climax of the most of the series. So it's pretty interesting to think what he could have done. Wouldn't say he'd be able to do a ton, but at the very least, I think he would if he fought the same Juhas that fought for the first part of the season finale or the series finale, being the one pre-Almighty. I think he might have actually eventually won, because physical damage doesn't do anything to him. I don't think Juhas really has anything other than physical damage, to start with until he gains the Almighty. So yeah, I think that Sajin could have been a very viable, threat for Juhas in his humanized form. But alas, that is never to be, because he basically destroyed Bambietti like unopposed. And then he got turned into a doggo. So that sucks. Really cool character. I don't entirely know for sure if he's still sentient and he's still Sajin and not just Pupper. But really hope he's still sentient. He may not be like the badass captain that we know and love, but I mean, hell, if he's still around, then that's one less person that technically died in the 1,000-Year Blood War. We have like millions upon millions of deaths in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. Like it's really like it's really the time where Kubo was like, I haven't been killing enough people in this series so far, have I? Yeah, let's fix that. You're dead, you're dead, you're dead. Like, he's just marking people off a list here. And he gets to people like Byakuya. He's like, you're dead. I don't want to deal with the fangirls. Yeah, never mind. I'm going to change that one. But, again, I'm kind of getting off on a rant here. Yeah, I mean, Sajin, he was pretty cool. He gains that new ability. He's got the new Bankai. He really had his glow-up moment. Like, it was pretty awesome. But that's going to do it today for this video on Sajin Komamura and what he did during the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. That's not the full extent of it. He has a little more in the arc as far as, like, he has a prior run-in with Bambi and stuff like that. But, like, his main impact on the series, or the series finale, so to speak, the last arc, it's really driven home with his whole like backstory and the humanification process. That's like the main meat and potatoes of his contribution. So, thank you guys for watching. Leave a like if you liked the video. Comment on what you guys want to see next. I still have these Toshiro 1000-Year Blood War arc and Byakuya 1000-Year Blood War arc videos I'm gonna pop out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. If you didn't like the video, stick around. Maybe you'll like the next one. So yeah, that's it for me. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.
I bet you don't